Hello YouTube. I'm going to be creating a different style of bow, one that I haven't made yet. This is 52 inches of 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC. I've marked true center, 2 inches on one side and 4 inches on the other for a slightly asymmetrical handle. I'll put almost the knock point almost perfectly in the center. So this is a little unusual, both in size and gauge, because usually if I do 52 inches, I'd be using, in preference, a 1-inch pipe so I could get the draw weight up to approximately 70-80 pounds. This is a little different. So let's just go ahead and flatten limbs, starting with the shorter one. There we go. So we're achieving a nice level of plasticity that will allow us to go ahead and flatten the board, use the board to flatten the limb quite effectively. The normal length for a bow like this is 48 inches, so 52 inches is longer, not substantially so, but it'll be interesting to see exactly what sort of draw weight we get out of this. I think that's pretty good. It's about as soft as these pipes get. Okay, so to the floor. You've seen me do this about 1,000,000 times, so I think I can dispense with the demonstration. Instead, I will just go ahead and flatten the limb and talk to you a little bit. So, right now, I've got a whole bunch of bows that I'm planning on making, and unfortunately, just due to circumstances, I've been a little bit busy with non-archery related things for the last few days. So, first of all, I apologize for not keeping up with the sorts of things that I enjoy bringing to you. That includes the weapon of the week and things like that, as well as just keeping up with some of my promises to make certain varieties of bow and arrow and things like that. Some of the things that I was asked to make and that I am working on are the hero bow from Link, one of the Link games, Legend of Zelda, a axe, Gimli axe. There might have been an axe from another game as well. I think the Master Sword from Legend of Zelda. A whole bunch of stuff. And people were even asking about elven daggers, stuff like that from Legolas. I am working on some bows which are in the style of Legolas's bow, the Mirkwood bows. And that's a good name because, well, heck, Mirkwood's a very old term. It has nothing to do necessarily with Tolkien. Just means dark forest. Alright. I think we're doing a nice job. This is flat. All I need to do now is make sure that it's kinkless and then nice and straight. Then I can go ahead and flatten the other side. The funny thing is, it's going to be a little bit harder, but that works to our advantage here because we want the shorter limb to be flatter. So if I go ahead and flatten it like this, by standing on it, typically that'll work out pretty well, because then when I go to the other one, the longer one, there's more pipe resisting my weight. It will hold me higher. The bottom line is the pipe should keep itself more puffed, meaning the longer one, which needs to be a little bit stronger, will be stronger. The shorter limb, which needs to be a little bit weaker because it's naturally stronger by virtue of its length, will be weaker. That's the theory anyway. We'll see if that holds up in practice. Let's go ahead and do the other limb now. This one's a little longer, so it will take a little, well, correspondingly longer. I paused there, I noticed something on the other limb. Normally I flatten in the same direction of the floorboards. This one I flattened across the floorboards. It does not affect the thickness in any real way, but it's noticeable. I'll show you in a minute when I lift it. It's actually kind of cool. Creates a little hatching or a little raised line. Very, very minor, but it's still visible. It actually might be more of a texture thing. That's something that I never really did. I think it would be fun to try and experiment with that, cutting a pattern into a board. I probably wouldn't use pine for this, but I would try and use something like oak, something that's nice and hard. You could cut a pattern into it and then stamp the pattern onto the bow. That might look really nice. I think PVC is amenable to that sort of treatment. Nice and soft there. Still a little firm in the middle. So let's concentrate on that for a minute. I keep going back and forth on how I like to heat it. For a long time I was using a curly Q motion to make sure I spread my time evenly throughout. If you just go straight one side to the other, your ends are going to get hotter. Also, I had tried this 2/3 of the way, 1/3 of the way to the end, and so forth. That works pretty well as well. You know, you have choices. Lots of techniques. Mostly I vary them just to stave off getting bored, because this takes a little while. There we go, let's see. There. Can you see? Just barely? No, it's too bright. There you go. Just barely. Little bumps. Let's come over here and suppose you can watch me. That was what I did. See, I went ahead and I did it across rather than with the full boards. Not the end of the world in any circumstance. Like I said, I think the result's interesting, and it reminded me to think about that, see if I could go ahead and come up with a way to do that. Because I really would like to be able to stamp designs into the boards. Ultimately, it would be pretty fun if you could go ahead and say, if you're making a bow of bravery in one of the brave bows, and as you're flattening it, put the design on it. Oh, that would be just insane. That would be great. How much time would that save? Because right now a lot of effort is expended on me painting the design on as accurately as possible. It's possible, it's just difficult. So if I could avoid that whole process, that's pretty cool. It could be nifty. Recenter it. Make sure that I'm... There we go. And I notice as I'm standing on it, it's rocking a little bit. That means the bottom's a little bit round. That's not necessarily a problem, but it just means I'm not getting a perfectly flat cross-section. If you do want one, you can always reheat it. If you're not concerned with that, then just leave it. It's fine. It's not within tolerances. You're not going to be creating any problems. The bigger issue is how does it match the other limb. Let's just take a look at it and see. For starters, if it's nice and straight still. Still looks good. Yeah, it's acceptably flat. Yeah, watch your fingers. I have yet to hurt myself, but I have this persistent concern that I'm going to pretty well crush my fingers doing this one day. Again, gloves are wonderful. If you've ever worked with boxes and doing things like that, man, these are lifesavers. Rubber-handed gloves. Just pick them up, please. You'll really, really like having them. Anytime you move furniture, anytime you do stuff like that. Okay. We are pretty well out of, it's straight, but it's pretty well twisted at the handle. Or rather, it's straight. I twisted it. That's fine. So now we're going to go ahead and heat the handle and correct that. I still want to do a test to see exactly how will it contain those stresses, because PVC has a memory. You notice that if you cut it, flatten it, and then heat it up again, it wants to curl up again. It doesn't just stay flat. It's not happy assuming the shapes we impose on it through heat and force. It wants to return to its original shape, and I don't know what exactly determined that. At a certain temperature, would it melt and then solidify and remain in that shape? I don't know. It's very interesting. I suspect that has something to do with it. But then, if I twist it, let's say I twisted the whole bow and then flattened it, still in a twisted state, would those tensions create any problems? Would the bow have a tendency to twist? I don't know. That'd be interesting. Experiments for another day, yes? On a side note, unrelated, I know we've talked about importing horn and things like that from Thailand on the PVC forum, the crafting forum. I just wanted to say I thought this might be a little problematic, not because of the import procedure itself. That's navigable. It's possible to do that, but something that might make it more difficult, and I don't know how much more, is Thailand, as far as I know, is not a country that's free of various pests and diseases like rinderpest, a hoof and mouth disease, things like that. And those countries which are much easier to import from. So that may affect things. Otherwise, it may require an inspection, stuff like that. Yeah, this is good. Okay, I'm going to get it most of the way here. And then I still need to, I'm going to need to heat it up a little bit more up at the top. So I can shape the handle a little bit up there and finish the twist. It's shaping up nice. Of course, you can just run it under cool water. Yeah, that's very close already. Good. A little bit of cool water. And let's finish. Darn, it's actually almost perfect. Okay. Well, tell you what, that's good for now then. We can always heat it up again later and change its shape. But at the moment, if you watch the lettering, you get an idea of the degree of twist. This is the most twisted that I've done. That's because I wasn't able to look at the one limb because of where I placed it, so I could sort of show it to you while I was doing it. I couldn't see the other limb, so I try and watch it. So then you can hold, you press down with the one side, and as long as it doesn't twist as you're doing that, you're pretty good. But otherwise, it's very easy to get it to twist quite a lot, as you can see. But easy to fix. There we go. I'm going to mark, say, 7 inches on each side. 6, 7, and maybe 8. I'm probably only going to heat up to 6 inches to curve for a recurve. However, I also want to ease a transition and make it nice and elegant. So let's just go ahead and do that right now. Let's say 6, 7, and 8. Then on the other side as well. 6, 7, and 8. There it is. Okay. Now we can flatten them and move along. There we go. Starting to puff. In just a moment we'll be able to shape the tips. I like heating small sections like this. It's always so much quicker and more satisfying. You get results. So I'm focusing on this area right now because I want it to soften. I'm not going to flatten it per se up till there, but I still want it to taper nicely. And that'll help. Okay. So now, set this aside. Let me get a block. This is a slightly smaller block than I usually use. Okay, and now we're going to set this over on the edge. I like to rest that on the countertop. And then I'm going to stick a pen in one side. So there we go. Right now we have the shape that we're already looking for. That's pretty much it. While I'm holding it like that, I'm going to go and grab it. I'm going to attempt to flatten it. See, it really doesn't want to stay, but give it enough reason to. Enough pressure, that is. Okay. Very nice. There we go. Not perfect, but I like it. That's pretty darn good. I'm just looking at it from the side to make sure it's just about right. It is. It's good. A little extra pressure. Remember, you can always heat it again and flatten it again, but it's nice to have it mostly done the first time around. Yeah, see, the only problem is, see, it's a little bit off-center. I can heat this and fix it, but I'm not sure if I want to. At this stage, I'm just going to heat it up again and try it again. The shape was almost perfect, though. Nice, slightly curved. But that's the beauty of PVC. You're not happy with it, you can just heat it up and try again. Within limits, because remember, every time you heat it, you're going to be weakening the PVC marginally. Or if you heat it really, overheat it, you can weaken it quite a lot. So just use some caution, use good sense and caution, and you should be able to do this with no trouble. There we are. I've also thought about doing this in stages. The first stage, curving it to the right shape, then inserting something into it to help it hold its shape while I heat it again to crush it sideways. You could also use a form if you had one. That would probably be the best choice of all. That would allow you to be very consistent. Okay, once more. Here we go. Setting this aside. This time I'm just going to hold it. That is pretty hot. There we go. That time I like it. This time it feels right. Yeah, it's not twisted. Perfect. So there you go. You see, it's easy. PVC is such a forgiving medium. There's a little bit there in the back that I'm going to be cutting off, so I'm not too concerned about getting all of it exactly where I otherwise want it, because it's just going to come off in the end. So to me, it's all very much the same. Beyond that initial flattening that I get, what happens to the rest? Cool. That looks good. I like it. Okay, under the water then. Just check it for straightness, and if you need to, you can correct it. This is the easiest time to do that now. Well, it's still pretty hot. Although it's easy to correct later as well. Again, the beauty of PVC. If you're really going for a fairly exotic shape, it might be easier just to go ahead and do them separately and then insert them. But for robustness, I prefer this. So there you go. Then I'm going to go ahead from here and taper it to about there. So this should be nice and elegant. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and I'll show you the results when I'm finished. Here we have the finished blank of the bow. Looks nice. So now all I have to do is cut the nocks, shape the tips, paint designs, etc., etc. I think it's looking pretty slick, and I'm looking forward to actually getting around to finishing it up. Check back and I will show you the rest of the shaping procedures.